Welcome. Now, if you've come here today looking for some sort of moral clarity or perhaps a bit of poetic justice from the annals of the past, well, I'm afraid I have some bad news for you. You are a fool. You see, history is not a wise teacher. It's an absurd spectacle, a magnificent disaster. And I am your host for this evening's performance. Our little show tonight features 3 exhibits, each one a perfect testament to the universe's utterly broken moral compass. We have a saint, saved by a monster, a scoundrel, who was buried as a hero, and a swordswoman who looked at the rulebook and simply set it on fire. So let us begin. So let's consider our first exhibit, shall we? A man whose goodness was so pure, so completely unblemished, that fate decided to repay him in the most bizarre, the most grotesque, and, frankly, the most hilarious way imaginable. I want you to meet Dr. Edward Block, a Jewish physician in Linz, Austria, and by all accounts, just an unimpeachable character. You know the type, the sort of man who treated the poor, the downtrodden, with endless empathy, a true paragon of virtue. And then, in 1907, fate, in its infinite and exquisitely cruel wisdom, brought the Hitler family to his door. This gratitude, you see, was for Dr. Bloch's charitable treatment of Clara Hitler, who was dying of breast cancer. Bloch charged the completely destitute family next to nothing for these painful daily treatments. And in return, her son, a young Adolf, sent him postcards and little handmade gifts, promising his eternal reverence. Remember that part? It pays off. Right. Let's fast forward a bit to 1938, the Anschluss. Now, for the Jews of Austria, the world effectively ends. It becomes this waking nightmare of terror, theft, and dehumanization. But not, as it happens, for our good doctor. Oh no. You see, Dr. Bloch had an admirer in a very, very high place. After writing a letter to his former patient's son, the Führer himself declared Bloch an Edeljude, a noble Jew. What a lovely little perk, isn't it? While his people were being utterly destroyed, the good doctor and his wife were placed under the personal protection of the Gestapo, living their lives completely undisturbed. And the absurdity just ran so deep. When it was finally time to leave, the Blochs were allowed to sell their home at its full market value, a courtesy that was denied to essentially every other Jewish person in the entire country. They were even permitted to take an extra 6 Reichsmarks with them. So what's the moral of the story? Well, sometimes basic human decency accidentally buys you a VIP pass out of hell, personally stamped by the devil himself. Let us move on to our next exhibit. From the perversion of justice, we now turn to the absolute, glorious absence of it. If Dr. Bloch was a saint, then Gregor MacGregor was the patron saint of failing upwards, a man who proves that with enough sheer audacity, you can literally get away with murder. Now, his military career began with a fleeting moment of glory in South America, a brilliant retreat that actually earned him a heroic nickname. But this was an aberration. His true talent, his signature move, was theatrical cowardice. At Portobello, he abandoned his entire sleeping army by jumping out a window onto his own mattress and then paddling away on a log. But did this ruin him? Oh, please, don't be silly. He returned to London and invented a country. He called it Poyais, a fictional Central American paradise. He wrote a 355-page guidebook just fabricating a whole nation with a parliament, a bank, and of course, rivers flowing with pure gold. He sold land certificates to his fellow Scots, bleeding them of their entire life savings. The reality, of course, was, well, it was slightly different. Poyais was not some bustling capital with an opera house. No, it was an untouched, malarial swamp. A death trap. Over half of the first colonists who arrived, filled with all that hope, died. Starvation, malaria, yellow fever. A true masterclass in entrepreneurship from our Mr. McGregor. Surely such a monster was brought to justice? The answer? Of course not. After a brief, and I should add, unsuccessful attempt to run the exact same scam in France, he just moved back to Venezuela, and they welcomed him as a hero of independence, gave him a general's pension, and eventually buried him with full military honors in the Caracas Cathedral. One must simply applaud. And now for something completely different. To cleanse the palate, let us turn to our final figure. A woman who looked at the suffocating rules of 17th century France and decided that, you know what, reality was optional. Her name was Julie Daubigny. When Julie fell in love with a young woman whose parents promptly had her locked away in a convent, did she despair? No. She executed a plan of such unhinged brilliance it belongs in an opera. Let's just review the steps, shall we? 1. Infiltrate. 2. Steal a corpse. 3. Place said corpse in your lover's bed. 4. Set the room on fire. And 5. Escape into the night. It's almost disappointingly straightforward. This was just how she operated. At a society ball, after kissing a woman on the dance floor, she was challenged by 3 very offended noblemen. So she took them all outside, one by one, defeated every single one of them with her sword, and then just sauntered back into the party as if nothing at all had happened. And on top of all the dueling and the body snatching and the arson, she also just so happened to possess a breathtaking contralto voice. She became a superstar at the Paris Opera, all while openly wearing men's clothes and defying every single conceivable social norm of her era. What a magnificent creature. So, what have we learned from this little tour through the historical madhouse? What is the grand takeaway from these 3, shall we say, disparate lives? It's this: the saint whose compassion earned him the protection of a genocidal maniac. The scoundrel whose cowardice and deceit earned him a hero's grave. And the chaotic swordswoman whose absolute defiance of reality made her an immortal legend. The system, you see, it is not broken. It was designed this way. So the next time someone tells you that history teaches us valuable lessons, you can just smile. Because you know the truth. It is not a teacher. It is a mad comedian, telling a joke so dark and so vast that the punchline echoes on for eternity. And all we can do is sit here in the dark and laugh along with it.